Hi, I'm Linda from Poolside Christchurch. I've noticed that a lot of our clients here in store and our technicians notice it out on the road that a lot of people at home don't really understand what makes up a filter, all the parts that are inside and exactly how it works. And how does it make the water go in one direction, you turn the handle and it goes somewhere else. So I thought it'd be a great idea if we were to grab a filter, open it up and have a look at what makes it tick. So I've got this guy here. It's a little Hayward 21-inch Pro Series sand filter, and we're going to open it up, have a look inside and see how it manages to get the water to go all the different directions that we can make it go. So the sand filter is actually a really simple device, and once you understand what all the different parts are in it and how it works, it makes it much simpler to run your pool and work out what all the different settings are for and when to use them. So this part up here is called the multi-port valve. It's called that because there's multiple ports around the top that you can turn the handle round to and leave the filter on that setting. So it's called the multi-port valve. It controls the direction of where the water goes once it gets to the filter. This is just the body, the drum of the filter, and generally this is filled with sand or glass. It's just a hollow body when you get it, and then you put your media inside it, and it's generally sitting on a base. This is where it gets interesting. If my microphone cord will reach far enough, I can pull this off here, and this is actually what sits on the inside of your filter. It doesn't look like this when it's on the inside. These pieces are called laterals. So if you imagine this is inside the filter with all of these laterals flayed out, as you can see, and you've got the media below and the media above, probably about 2/3 to 3/4 of the way up the pipe here. If you look at the bottom of the lateral, can I get it in close enough? You can just see that there are holes in them. Okay, so they're tiny little holes, big enough for water to pass through, but not big enough that the sand or the glass can get through these holes. So these laterals play a really important part in making sure that your filter media stays in the filter and it's only the water that gets back to the pool. If we look at the top of the multi-port valve, you can see that there are lots of different settings on there. So if we look from the top up here, you can't see it because the handle's in the way, but we've got filter, rinse, recirculate, backwash, closed, winter, and waste. So what I'd like to do now is go through what happens when you use each of these settings, where the water comes from and goes to, and when you should use it. Before we get there though, another couple of quick things to show you. May be able to just read it on here, although it's a little tricky to see. That says pump on there. So this is where the water comes to the multi-port valve from the pool via the pump. So this is essentially bringing water into the filter. This one down here has got written on it, it says return, and that's the return line. So that's where the water, after it's been through the filter, returns back to the swimming pool. Over the other side, we've got the waste line. So this is, again, it's instead of the return line. If the water goes out the waste line, instead of going back to the pool, it's going to waste. So it's probably plumbed into some drain pipe work that you've got, or possibly even just discharges out onto the lawn. So that's the waste. So pump is where the water comes from the pool to the filter. Return, that's the return line after it's been through the filter and it's going back to the swimming pool. And over here is waste, and that's where the water does not return to the pool, it's going out down the drain somewhere. Let's start by looking at filter. So if we look at the multi-port valve, you can see that the handle is now pointing up here to filter. So when your multi-port valve's on filter, what's going to happen is the water will come to the filter from the pool in through this pump line. It is going to get to this area here on the multi-port valve, and it comes out these holes that you can see in the side here and travels down through the media. When it gets to the bottom, only the water can get in the little holes at the bottom. Any other debris has been trapped along the way through the filter media. The water feeds back in through the bottom of the laterals, comes back up through this pipe, and then goes back to the pool via the return line. So that's filter. Just about always at 180 degrees from filter, on the other side of the multi-port valve, is where you find backwash. Now I just turned that handle rather awkwardly then, because it's not a properly installed multi-port valve and filter, but make sure at home, if you're doing this on your filter, that you always have the pump turned off when you're turning this handle round. Essentially going from one port to another port without turning the pump off in the middle is like going from a forward gear in your car into reverse without stopping, going through neutral at some point, and then changing direction. So always turn the pump off before you turn this handle. Right, so we're now in backwash. So what happens with backwash? It's essentially a reverse filter. Water still comes to the filter via the pump, so it's coming in through here, but instead of going out here and down through the media like you do when it's filtering, the water actually comes down through the central pipe and comes back up out the laterals at the bottom here. So the water is being pushed up through the media, which is bringing any debris in the media up to the top so that it can then go out the waste line. So it's going to go back out this line and it's going to go to the drain. So you're getting rid of the rubbish out of the filter. I like to think of the backwash on the filter a little bit like when you need to empty the vacuum cleaner bag at home. When the vacuum cleaner bag gets full and there's lots of debris in there, you tend to lose suction on the vacuum cleaner. Same thing with a filter here, you'll lose suction when you're trying to vacuum the pool. So at home you would empty the vacuum cleaner bag, and with your swimming pool you do a backwash. So backwash, essentially the reverse of filter. Always following a backwash, you should do a rinse. Turn the handle around. Okay, so we're now over here on rinse. Now this is a commonly forgotten cycle that you need to do when you're doing a backwash. What rinse does is it helps settle all the media back in the filter after it's had a backwash. If you imagine all that water's just come through, it's lifted it all up, got rid of the rubbish, but it's all still not really in place. So you need to do a rinse to settle all the media back down before you go back to filter. So what happens when you're rinsing? Again, water comes from the pool in through here, and it travels in the same direction as it does if you're doing filter. So the water's going to come out here, travels through the media, gets to the laterals at the bottom here, goes back up through the central pipe, but instead of going back to the pool like it does with filter, it goes out the waste line. So it's going out the waste line out to the rubbish. That just gets rid of those last little bits of debris or potentially any sand or glass that might be sitting there, and if you didn't do a rinse they would go back to the pool. So always do a rinse, generally only for 20 or 30 seconds after you do a backwash, just to settle all the media down. Now what should we look at next? Waste. Right, if I turn the dial round to waste, you can see there that we're now round onto the waste setting. Waste is where you give the body of the filter a break, and all that's happening with waste is the water is coming to the filter from the pump, obviously, but it's bypassing the filter. It's not getting filtered at all. It's coming in through here and it just goes straight out the waste line. It is essentially just emptying water from the pool. Commonly used if you've got a whole lot of debris on the pool and you just want to vacuum it up and chuck it out and get it out down the waistline. You don't want to put all the rubbish into the filter. Also used if you've flocked the pool and you're vacuuming up the flock, always use the waste setting. What haven't we talked about? Recirculate. Recirculate is much the same as waste, except instead of going out to waste, it's just going back to the pool. So it comes in via the pump, doesn't go through the filter at all, and goes straight back to the pool via the return line. I think of it as like stirring the sugar into your cup of tea, perhaps. You might use it if you've added chemicals to the pool and you just want to circulate the water so that they'll dissolve. Commonly used when using a flock, just to stir the water. That's all that's happening. There's no filtering actually happening. It's just coming in through here, back to the pool and circulating it. The closed setting on here, turn the handle around to closed. I've got it on closed there. Hardly ever used. Should never have the pump running if the filter is set to closed, because everything is closed. None of these ports are open. The water can't come in and it can't go out. So if you're running your pump on closed, turn it off immediately. You don't want to do that. It's sometimes used when, say, installing some new hardware or some pipe work on the pool to stop the water actually flowing, but really we don't tend to use it a lot in practice at all. And the winter setting on here, really 99 times out of 100 here in New Zealand, we don't use the winter setting, so I'm not going to get you confused with talking about winter. The only other thing I haven't talked about is this little piece here on the filter, on the MPV. So this one has got just a little piece of see-through glass on the side. It's called a sight glass. Your filter might have one of these, or it could possibly have just a piece of clear plumbing. The idea of this is so that you can see when the water that's going past it is clean. So you use this if you are doing a backwash, or if you're, say, vacuuming to waste, or you've just got the waste running. Generally, when you do backwash, the water that goes through here initially will be quite dirty. It's got all the debris that's going out of your filter. So you keep an eye on the sight glass to know when you have backwashed enough. Once the water flowing past here is nice and clean, you know that you've backwashed enough. You can turn the pump off, turn the handle round to rinse, do a rinse for 20-30 seconds, turn the pump off again and back round to filter, and you're done. So hopefully that explains a whole lot about how the filter and your multi-port valve works. Most people have never seen anything like this. It's been installed by your pool person, and unless you've tried to change the media yourself, you may never see the insides of your multi-port valve. So I hope that's been helpful, and don't forget, if you've got any questions, please email us, phone us, come in and see us, or visit us on our Facebook page and send us a message. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching.